Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into the big AI headlines from the AI Daily News Digest, specifically May 20th, 2025.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to unpack. We've got offline AI, new models making waves, some interesting stuff for developers, and a look at the job market, too.
Definitely. It feels like things are moving faster than ever. So let's start with something that really stood out to me, Clara.
Yes, Clara. The idea here is pretty compelling. A completely offline, modular AI workspace.
Offline being the key word, right. So running everything locally on your machine.
Exactly. It leverages things like Ollama for local LLMs, or you can connect it to OpenAI APIs if you want that cloud power. But it also bundles in agents, automation via N8N, even local image generation.
Wow. Okay. So Stable Diffusion or CompUI running right there.
That's the goal. And it's got this, drag and drop dashboard interface.
So you can kind of build your own control panel, widgets for chat, email, agent logic.
Precisely. Think of it as your personal AI control room, as they put it. No constant cloud dependency, no juggling API keys unless you choose to connect out.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for privacy or just, control. And it's open source.
Yep, MIT license, so anyone can tinker with it or contribute.
Were there any hitches mentioned? I thought I saw something about Windows Defender.
There was a note about that, yeah. Sometimes happens with new executables from GitHub. It might flag it initially. Probably needs more signing or recognition.
Okay, understandable. And
Huh.
something about only one API key at a time in the UI.
Right. Currently, the interface seems limited to configuring just one external API key, like for OpenAI. So switching between different cloud providers easily within Clara itself might be a bit clunky for now.
But the NAN integration for automation, that sounds powerful.
Oh, absolutely. That moves it beyond just chat or image generation. You're talking proper local automation workflows powered by AI agents. It's quite a significant feature.
Okay, moving on to new models. Meta released KernelLLM 8B. What's the story there?
Well, the interesting part is the claim that this 8 billion parameter model actually outperformed bigger hitters like GPT-4o and DeepSeek V3 on a specific benchmark.
Really? An 8B model doing that? Which benchmark?
It was called Kernel Bench Triton Level 1.
Mm.
It suggests, that clever architecture might be starting to catch up to just raw size, at least for certain tasks. Efficiency is key.
That is surprising. Smaller, smarter models would be a big shift.
Definitely something to watch. And speaking of models becoming more accessible, Microsoft made a big move too.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
They've added Grok to their Azure Model Foundry collection.
Grok. From XAI, now on Azure.
That's right. Grok 3 is available. Puts another major kind of distinct model in the hands of Azure's huge developer and enterprise base. More choice.
That's definitely significant competition and choice in the cloud space. And sticking with developer tools for a sec, GitHub Copilot seems to be expanding its scope.
Massively. It's not just about suggesting code snippets anymore. They're talking about supporting the whole software development lifecycle.
Like what specifically?
Well, there's this new agent mode, so it can tackle more complex autonomous tasks. There's better support for teams collaborating with Copilot, tools aimed at modernizing legacy applications, and even an SRE agent.
SRE, Site Reliability Engineering, so helping manage live systems.
Seems like it. Copilot is aiming to be a much more comprehensive AI partner for developers, covering way more ground.
These tools are changing things fast. Now, I saw mention of something called the Absolute Zero Reasoner, AZR. Sounds dramatic.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The reports are pretty bold. It apparently achieved perfect scores on the ARC benchmark.
ARC, Abstraction and Reasoning Corpus, right? That's considered super hard for AI.
Extremely hard. It tests fluid intelligence, basically the ability to grasp new concepts from just a few examples and apply them flexibly. It's seen as a hurdle towards more general AI.
And AZR got perfect scores.
That's the claim. If true and verifiable, it would represent a pretty significant step forward in AI reasoning capabilities beyond just pattern matching on vast data sets.
Wow. So genuine problem solving in unfamiliar situations.
That's the implication. We'll need to see more, of course, how it translates practically, but it's definitely a development that caught people's attention.
Okay, let's shift gears to hardware. There was buzz around Intel's Arc Pro GPUs, specifically the 48 GB one.
Yeah, the potential price point got people talking. Sub $1,000 for a 48 gigabyte professional card. That would be very competitive.
You could run some pretty big models locally with that much VRAM without breaking the bank, but there was some skepticism.
There was. Questions about whether they can actually hit that price point or if demand will just swamp supply immediately. Availability is often an issue with these high-demand parts.
And was there a catch on performance?
Well, yeah, the memory bandwidth was highlighted around 450 gigabytes per second, which is, decent, but significantly lower than some of the competing high-end cards from NVIDIA, for example.
So lots of memory, but maybe not as fast getting data in and out.
Exactly. So for certain tasks that are really bottlenecked by memory bandwidth, it might not be the absolute fastest, even with all that VRAM. It's a trade-off. Price versus peak performance profile.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, let's touch on something a bit heavier. The reports about corporate layoffs potentially driven by AI. We saw a lot of big tech names mentioned.
Yeah, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Salesforce, others. The narrative emerging in some reports is that companies are restructuring, trimming certain roles, partly because AI can automate tasks, and partly to shift resources towards AI development.
So departments like marketing, sales, maybe some non-technical roles being affected.
That seems to be the pattern mentioned in some cases. And some companies, like Duolingo and Dell, were cited as explicitly linking cuts to reinvestment in AI initiatives.
But is it really all down to AI taking jobs?
That's where you need a bit of caution, I think. AI is likely a factor in strategic thinking, maybe an accelerator. But, tech has cyclical layoffs, there are broader economic pressures. It's probably not just one thing.
Right. It might be too simple to just say AI did this.
And there was that interesting counterpoint about Klarna reportedly having to rehire some people after trying to automate roles with AI. Implementation isn't always smooth.
That suggests it's not a perfect substitute, at least not yet or not everywhere.
Exactly. Plus, the digest also pointed out that, well, we're not seeing overwhelming labor market data, like plummeting tech job postings across the board or massive spikes in tech unemployment. That clearly points only to AI displacement right now.
So the data isn't quite matching the intensity of the narrative yet.
Not definitively, no. And you also have to consider that sometimes framing layoffs around an AI strategy can sound better to investors than just, say, cost-cutting due to market conditions.
Ah, the messaging aspect. Good point. And things like Meta's layoffs are also tied to their big VR bets, not just AI, right?
True. And Dells are in a company with a huge hardware focus. So, yeah, the picture is complex. Attributing it all solely to AI replacing humans directly is likely an oversimplification at this stage.
Okay, so to quickly wrap up this deep dive, we covered Clara's offline AI approach,
Microsoft bringing Grok to Azure.
GitHub Copilot's expanding role,
Meta's efficient KernelLLM.
the potentially groundbreaking absolute zero reasoner,
Right, the buzz and the caveats around Intel's big Arc Pro GPU.
and this really complex, ongoing discussion about AI's role in recent tech layoffs.
It just highlights, again, how fast everything is moving. Fundamental research, practical tools, business strategy, workforce impact, it's all happening at once.
Absolutely. Which kind of leaves us, and you listening, with this thought. With all this change happening so quickly, what are the really critical questions we should be asking ourselves right now about where this is all headed and, how we fit into it?
Good question to ponder. Keep digging. Stay curious.
And join us next time for another deep dive.